Welcome to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Kris Murray. Childcare leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next childcare rockstar. Now, let's go. This is Childcare Rockstar Radio, episode 127, featuring Drew Vernon. Hey folks, thanks so much for tuning into the podcast. I am Kris Murray, your host at Childcare Rockstar Radio, and I've got a great one on tap for you today with my guest, Mr. Drew Vernon. Drew is a seasoned early childhood industry expert and pro, and let me tell you a little bit more about Drew. Drew Vernon is the U.S. marketing lead at tonies, a popular European children's audio system that has recently launched in the United States. In this episode, we're going to learn all about tonies. Toy News Tuesday editors recently chatted with Vernon about his new role as a play ambassador for the Genius of Play and why he believes a child who is a strong player is also a strong learner, a problem solver, and an overall happy person. So it's all about the power of play today here on the podcast. And Drew is also a former brand director at Lego, one of my favorite toy companies, and has also owned his own childcare center in the past, specializing in drop-in care. And he is the father of 3 amazing children. So in this episode, we talk a lot about play. We talk about tonies, which is quite an amazing learning, not just a toy, but a tool for social emotional wellness and for helping kids be self-directed in their wellness journey and helping them with anxiety, a child-directed learning toy and also experience and helping with all the social components. And that is a product called tonies. So we're going to learn all about that and much, much more. So we are here launching this podcast in mid-June, and I hope that you're having an incredible summer so far as we move into the dog days of summer, if you will, and it's going to be quite hot around parts of the United States and the world. And hopefully we can avoid as much, global weather craziness as we can. And so just sending you all the best and wishing for an easy, relaxing month of June and summertime experience for you here in the world of early learning. And I'm also excited to share with you that we have a new quiz that we launched just a couple weeks ago for our friends here in the childcare industry. It's been my goal for a long time to create a quiz that will help you get more clarity about what's holding you back in your business and in your life. And so we've created a quiz called What's Your Number One Income Killer? And to take the quiz and learn more about your income and what's holding you back from having a higher income, you can do that at childcarequiz.com. So go on over and check that out and take the free quiz. And I hope that you have a good time doing it and you'll get a free report with it and giving you the results on your quiz. And also, we have been in the very busy promotional mode for our Childcare Success Summit 2022 conference in Nashville, October 19th to the 22nd. And we've been promoting it for the last few months. Our early bird buy one, get one just ended a couple weeks ago. And if you missed out on that, you can still get tickets, but the ballroom is quickly filling up now as we go into the summer months. We have a few little summer deals here and there, but most of all, I just want you to dive in and just get to Nashville and be there. It's going to be an incredible show, and we've made amazing speaker announcements. Our celebrity keynote, motivational speaker keynote is Lisa Nichols, and Lisa is an incredible speaker, one of the best speakers that we've ever had on our stage, and she's right up there with the quality of speaker as a Les Brown, a Simon Sinek, and so many more great speakers that we've had. We've been very blessed to bring a very high, perhaps the highest quality caliber speaker to the childcare field through this summit. So if you've never been to one, this will be a potentially life-changing experience for you. And you can read all the reviews and see all the testimonials of what people have to say. We have over 500 reviews at childcaresuccesssummit.com. So get your tickets today while they last. So with that, I'm going to take you on over to today's episode 127 with Mr. Drew Vernon. And at the end of the episode, I want you to stick with it because you'll hear about a way that you can win a free Tony box, which is the early learning children's audio play and emotional wellness system. Again, it's screen free. And that's what makes it so cool too, is that it's an audio device that helps kids and helps them learn, and it's fun, but there's no screens. So I love that. And we'll be giving away a free Tony box. You got to listen to this episode and take action, a little baby step of action in order to be eligible to win and be in a drawing. So you'll hear all about that towards the end of this episode. So let's dive on in to meet Drew Vernon and learn about Tony and so much more in the world of play here at Childcare Rockstar Radio. Welcome back, everybody, to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am so excited to bring to you today Mr. Drew Vernon. And Drew is going to tell us all about some really cool things going on in the world of early childhood. Drew, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Kris?
Doing fantastic. Welcome to the podcast. Where are you right now?
I'm on the other side of the Rockies from you. I'm in Salt Lake City.
Oh, cool. Love Utah. Got lots of friends there. That's fantastic.
Great.
How long have you lived in Salt Lake?
I actually just moved back. I grew up here. I was actually born in Colorado. I lived there till I was 10. I spent the rest of my childhood in Utah, and then I left for school and work, and I just came back last summer.
Okay. Well, I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but the most important question is, are you a Denver Broncos fan?
Of course, yeah. I remember watching John Elway back in the day. We had, I think, 3 or 4 years we went to the Super Bowl and lost, and then finally 98, 99, we pulled out a couple of victories. So, yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Me too. Tell us a little bit about you. What do you do? And just give us kind of the backstory of all things Drew.
Sure. So I am the marketing director for a company called Tonies. And prior to that, I went to school for marketing. I came out of business school working in beauty CPG, consumer packaged goods with Procter and Gamble. Then I moved on to Lego, where I managed the preschool business for Lego. And then now I've come over to Tonies, and I manage the brand marketing for that company.
Well, I bet working at Lego was pretty darn fun. Did you have did your office, was it full of different Lego sets, or tell us more about that?
Lego galore. I grew up as a major fan of Lego. I got my first set, I think, when I was 5 or 6 years old. And I grew out of it a little bit, but I rediscovered my love for the brand when, the prospect came up of working there. And it's a very fun environment, a really great brand, and it really helped shape a lot of my ideas as a marketer and as a dad, and a lot of the work that I'm doing now at Tonies.
Right. And I do think that you also started your own childcare center. Maybe it was a drop-in center. Tell us more about that.
It was, yes. So I was working at Lego in Connecticut, and I saw a lot of my colleagues, a lot of my friends were just really busy all of the time, and they were always trying to get babysitters, and babysitters in New England were always really expensive. And I thought, gosh, there's got to be a business opportunity here to open up a childcare center that was drop-in. So if parents wanted just to drop their kids off for a couple of hours so they could go to the movies or go to the grocery store or the gym, that's kind of the inspiration for starting the center. So I opened it up in West Hartford, Connecticut.
Oh, okay. And how long did you operate that?
Not very long, actually. So I did this all while I was working full-time at Lego. And
oh, wow.
I won't bore you with all of the details, but the state of Connecticut and the Office of Early Childhood was really difficult to work with. There was no distinction of being a drop-in center versus a regular center. And
Right.
so I jumped through all the hoops. I finally got everything opened. I had a staff, a director, everything. And it was really just too much for me on top of my full-time job. And I ended up selling the business after just a few months.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of states have that issue. Colorado also has some licensing issues that are trying to apply regular early childhood licensing regs to drop in and a little bit stringent, So I feel like sometimes drop ins get the short end of the stick. So,
Yeah, yeah. In my research, I was seeing all sorts of drop-in centers down south in Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and they were able to open up pretty easily, actually.
yeah.
But we had to do just a ton of work getting everything up to speed, and a lot of things that, frankly, weren't that applicable to drop-in. We were compliant in.
Yep. Yep. I get it. Tell us a little bit about your personal life. You mentioned that you have 3 kids. So tell us a little bit about what's going on at home.
Sure. Yeah. So I got married pretty early. I was about 24 or 25 and started having kids. I have 3. My oldest daughter is 12. I have a middle son who's 9, and my youngest daughter is 6. So we keep pretty busy. And
Yeah.
yeah, every day is a new challenge, and each kid is different, and so I'm just trying to navigate that as a dad, and trying to keep everything together. But fortunately, my wife, is is there with me, and we tend to make it work.
Yeah. That's great. What is a fun fact about you? Something that not a lot of folks know.
When I was in college, I actually took some time off of my studies to go live in Japan for 2 years, and I learned how to speak Japanese, which
Oh,
I have
cool.
used for a couple of my jobs. I was a tour guide, a Japanese speaking tour guide in college after living in Japan. So that's one unique thing about me.
That comes in handy if you are going out for sushi and sake and you can speak Japanese to the waiters and waitresses. Do you ever do that?
Yes, yeah, and you would be amazed because, as Americans, we just expect that everybody speaks English. But if you speak just a couple of probably terribly pronounced phrases to a Japanese person, they will just compliment you and tell you you're fluent,
Aw.
and it's really probably not good for my ego, but it is fun to get the chance to speak it.
Yeah, it's a cool culture. We just came off of a week in San Francisco last week where we did one of our quarterly academy mastermind meetings, and we stayed at the Hotel Nico, which I will
Okay.
give them a shout out on this podcast because the service level the was majority of the staff was Japanese owned hotel. Insane service level. I'm so off the charts good. The level of detail, the caring, the fast response, all of those things was just amazing. So shout out to Hotel Nico and Japan in general, I guess.
Yeah,
So
it's a great place. Yeah, I learned a lot there, and a lot of beautiful things about the culture.
yeah, very, very cool. So let's dive into tonies. What is tonies? Tell us more about it.
Yeah, so tonies is a screen-free speaker system for kids. It uses magnetic figures called tonies that when you put them on the box, it will start to play anything that it's programmed to play. So different songs, stories, mindfulness, non-fiction content. And it was really born out of a couple of dads actually over in Germany a few years ago. They met on the board of a preschool together, and they saw that their children's teacher was using CD players in the classroom to play, this different types of content. So they created this box, really with the child in mind. They wanted to create something that was screen free. This was
Mhm.
before COVID, so this was ahead of its time, I think. But they wanted to create something that was screen free and something that a child as young as 2 or 3 could operate independently, which ends up being one of the best features of it is because a child, with limited motor function, with limited, tactile ability, can place a figure and have an independent play experience. And it was
Mhm.
just immediately successful in Germany. They sold millions of boxes in the course of a couple of years, and then expanded to the UK. And then I was part of the team that helped to launch this in the United States in 2020.
Okay. So you launched in the crazy year of 2020. Is it primarily being used by preschools and childcare centers or by families, or is it a mix? Tell us more about the actual usage of it.
Sure. So it's Over in Europe, it was primarily being used in homes, in
Yeah.
nurseries, bedrooms, things like that.
Hmm.
I had a previous background in the toy industry at Lego, managing the preschool business. And one of my most successful programs was called Prescription for Play, in which I partnered with pediatricians to promote daily play between parents and children. And I had some success with that program, so much that when I came to Tony's, I thought, I need to start an education initiative. And so I created a program called Tony's for Teachers that shows educators and childcare professionals how to use the Tony
Hmm.
box in classrooms and daycare centers.
Cool. I will love to get some more information about that. So maybe you can share some resources at the end of the podcast so that teachers and educators listening to this podcast can know where to go to learn more.
I would be
Oh,
happy to. Yeah, we have
okay.
a dedicated site for that, and we have a lot of resources available.
Yeah. So were you developing an actual kind of curriculum to go with it, or just more of like training videos and like use cases and stuff for how to use it?
We're developing out a program for it. So the way that it works is it's kind of like a 21st century CD player for kids. So we have a
Okay.
variety of different figures. Each figure has different types of content. So it can be taken in an unstructured format, but we have put some structure around different centers that can be used, from mindfulness, reading, independent play, and discovery, which is our nonfiction content.
Right. And tell me a little bit more about the mindfulness content. So, what are some examples of how children, families, or teachers would use it for mindfulness?
So we initially started by partnering with a company called Go Noodle. They're in about 90% of American elementary schools, but all of their content is screen based. And so they came to us a couple of years ago and they
Mm,
said, "Hey, we're trying to take kids through mindfulness exercises, but they're all staring at the TV screen. Can we do something on the Tony box where we can do it in a screen free way?" So we created a Go
mhm.
Noodle mindfulness Tony. And since then, we've also launched different Tonys that have white noise, nature sounds, lullabies, different types of relaxation content that can be used for nap time. It can be used for coming in from outdoor play, as kind of like resetting the room, and different
Yes,
types of content to that effect.
that is super cool. At when we were in San Francisco last week, we had a session where we were talking about the challenges of that very thing. Is if you're one teacher, because nap time is usually when teachers go and have their lunch, so they um, relieve each other to go on their breaks, and so you've got one teacher with 8 or 10 kids trying to soothe backs and pat backs and keep them in a nap state, and also the settling down after they come off of the playground. So having these tools like the Tony box, I think, would be amazing. And I love that it's screen free. That's obviously one of its biggest appeals. So I think it sounds like a really, really cool asset for the classroom and, of course, for families.
It is. I wish, I came to Tony at my childcare center, but I would have loved to have something like this when I was running my center.
Yeah. Awesome. Love that. So let's talk a little bit about marketing. You're a marketing guy. I'm a marketing guy. I actually started out also in not a brand marketing, but I did work with consumer packaged goods brand people at Procter and Gamble, of all things, early in my career, and at Leo Burnett Advertising. What have you learned in the world of marketing? I mean, I'm sure a ton since you've been doing this your whole life, but what are the things that you love best about being a marketer?
I fell in love with marketing at an early age. I think I was in high school, and I really found it just to be the intersection of human psychology, of understanding how the mind works, and putting a product or service to that. To what are the products and services that meet the needs and wants of different consumers, and so I was fortunate to have a great kind of classic training with P&G. They basically invented the idea of brand management back in the 19th century. And so I cut my teeth at P&G, learning how to do that for, beauty brands, for mascara and lotion. And I've taken a lot of value from that. And then brought it into Lego and now to Tony's, where I'm able to apply those strategies, but to something that I'm more naturally curious about, enthusiastic about, which is early childhood education.
Yeah. Love that. So yeah, we have that in common quite a bit. And when I discovered as a mom, and you might have experienced this with your wife if your kids were in preschool, is the challenging part of running a preschool business, but not having any marketing expertise is that you are a little bit clueless when it comes to enrolling and retaining families and how to get your message out there in a bigger way in your market and how to pop the message as being something that's a different experience than the center down the street.
Mhm.
So that's really where I started, Drew, is in that piece. So when you were um, shopping around for childcare centers or preschools, I don't know if you did that or if your kids stayed at home, but did you see any nuances and of course you had your own drop-in center, but did you discover any nuances in how preschools are being marketed?
Yeah, I think that was kind of a wake up call for me because, I came from that big CPG background with $1 million budgets, $10 million budgets. And it's easy to have a marketing plan when you have an agency, when you have, all of these resources at your disposal. But when I started my drop in center, it was very much a grassroots approach where,
Yeah.
how you were in the community mattered and how you networked on a face to face basis mattered. And so I learned very quickly that there was a hustle to it that I didn't have to do at P&G. And so that's where I started to adapt a lot of my marketing strategies to say, how can I do this in my community? And I'll just
Hmm.
give you one brief example. When you're thinking of like what an influencer is, like I do a lot of influencer marketing programs. And
Yeah.
and the first thing in my mind that pops up is, some mom on Instagram who has 1 million followers, or maybe it's a micro influencer where she only has 50,000 or 100,000 followers. And I thought, what's the equivalent of this in the community? What's an influencer under the definition of somebody who actually has the opportunity to influence you in the parenting decisions that you make? And so that's kind of what led me to the pediatricians program, because that's an influencer in your child's life and how they're raised. I would say a childcare professional is also an influencer on a small scale. You don't have to have a huge massive Instagram following to be an influencer, but that
Right.
can very much be applied to the strategies that you deploy for your childcare center.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's one of the things that we taught as well is who in your community are seen as trusted advisors, trusted experts, and pediatricians is at the top of the list. Also, pediatric dentists and having relationships with people in the community like that are serving the same families that you can collaborate with. You could put books in their waiting room. You can, make a relationship with those docs and say, hey, we're serving the same families. Let's connect. And just by having those relationships, you become a stronger influencer in your market. So I love, love, love that. Let's talk a little bit about, my question on here was your favorite early childhood brands. I mean, I would have to go back to Lego as being one of my favorites. So I, as a mom of a son and a daughter who are now 19 and 17. I was a huge Lego buyer. So every time my kids got bored, I would admittedly run to Target and get another Lego set. But talk to me about brands that you see out there. And tonies sounds like it's an amazing product. Are there other brands that come to mind that you have loved in the space of early childhood?
Yeah, I think since I've been at Tony's, it's made me think more about the screen-free brands, or the brands that don't,
Hmm.
heavily rely on technology. And there's a lot of
Yes.
great brands and companies that offer, some great content. But I really look at brands like Kiwi Crate. Kiwi Crate has an awesome segmentation of providing kids with an age-appropriate building experience that actually shows kids how things work and how to create something from scratch. There's also maybe a lesser known company that I'm familiar with called Monty Kids that takes a Montessori approach to screen
Oh, cool.
free learning. I was actually able to connect with the CEO of that company, and I just really believe in the work that she's doing. And I think any of these experiences that give children some sort of a stimulus that they have to take and interpret and build something out of, whether that's something physical or an idea that helps them flex their creative muscles or try to work at creating stories or solving problems. Any brands that help foster that is a brand that I'm a fan of.
Hmm. Love that. Is there any specific advice that you would have for the ECE professionals listening to this podcast related to, anything in your expertise, whether it's branding, screen-free, parenting, anything at all that you would like
Sure.
to
Sure.
share?
Yes. And, this has been kind of a journey for me. I'll just preface it with that, as I've gone along in different industries and started my own business, I've started to think of myself less as a marketer and more as an advocate for children and for early
Yeah,
childhood development. And so sometimes I could be accused of trying to think about things too magnanimously, but I really think as it relates to people working in this space, you have a very real and uh, valid opportunity to mold children because you're spending a lot of time with these children, sometimes more than their own parents. And
that's
I
right.
think that should be a responsibility and an opportunity. And so I really do believe that childhood matters, that the things that we present to our kids and the time that we spend with them in these early years is what's going to shape their adolescence and ultimately adulthood. So I would just, my advice would just be to realize that and recognize that. And I'm sure, that's the reason why a lot of people get into early childhood education. So I don't think I'm unique in claiming this mantle, but I think just the more that we can remember that we have the ability to impact future generations is one that keeps me motivated and working in the space.
Yeah. Well said. I love that. And I find that as we continue to evolve on my team and my clients, we're getting more into the role of also advocacy and being that those groups that really stand for what's best for children.
Right.
So I love that. So thank you for sharing that. That was very heartfelt, and I love that. So what's next for you? Where are you headed on your journey? Are you just going to keep trying to rock the tonies world and spread the message?
I mean, there's so much opportunity with Tony's right now.
Yeah,
I just got an email from a major education publisher that wants us to put us in their catalog. So I'm super excited about that. There's all sorts of
cool.
different product extensions and different formats, different types of content. So I don't think I'll get tired of Tony's anytime soon. But other than that, I would love to get into, nonprofit, involvement, just
Yeah.
working to further the childhood experience. That's my ultimate goal is to improve the childhood experience. So whatever I do will probably be something along those lines.
Love that. Well, we have a big event in the fall, Childcare Success Summit with 1,200 leaders and owners. So maybe we'll figure out a way to bring Tony's to the show and you could show it off and
Yeah, I was
collab
there.
in
I was
some
there
way.
last year in Las Vegas. I,
Oh,
I
you
was
were?
I was an exhibitor, and so I'd love to hear about more opportunities. We can definitely connect on that.
Well, then that's not good on my part because I'm sure I met you and now I'm like forgetting that part, but I was meeting like 17,000 people.
No,
So sorry
yeah,
about that.
no worries at all. It was a whirlwind. We had just started. I think it was our second exhibition,
Yeah.
and yeah, I really admire the work that you're doing. I've taken
Thank
a
you.
look at a lot of your literature. And your podcast is fantastic. The Success Summit.
Thanks.
This is definitely a resource that I would have loved to know about when I was a childcare owner. But I think the work that you're doing is really fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much, Drew. I really appreciate that. Let's talk a little bit about, we have a giveaway today. So, and then we have an opportunity for the listeners to take advantage of getting their own Tony with a discount. So first I'll mention that we're going to give away a free Tony box to a randomly chosen person who gives us a review for this podcast episode. So I want you guys to go ahead and leave a review and we'll randomly choose someone and we'll contact you and give you the prize, which is a free Tony box. And what is the value of that, Drew, of that giveaway?
At Target or Amazon or wherever you might pick one of these up, it's $99 for the starter set,
Okay,
which is a Tony box with one figure, and then additional figures are about $14.99.
cool. And so it is available at Target. It's available on Amazon. Are there any other places that you want to mention with regard to where people can find it?
Yeah, Tonys.com, TONIES.com, Amazon, Target, Best Buy, Barnes and Noble, Pottery Barn Kids, independent specialty retail. We have several hundred independent toy stores across the country that also carry Tonies. So those are probably your best bets for finding a Tony box.
Love it. And tell us a little bit about the special offer that you have for us today.
Yeah, so if you go to tonies.com and put a starter set into your cart and put in Tony Podcast at checkout, that's all one word, Tony Podcast, that's going to give you 15% off the purchase of a starter set.
And it's TONIE.
Correct.
Podcast, right?
TONIE Podcast, Tony Podcast.
Okay, that's your promo code. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for being here today and sharing the Tonies story. It sounds like a super cool product. I'm definitely going to go check it out. And is there anything else that you would like to share before we say goodbye?
If anybody wants to reach out, I'd love to hear stories of how Tony boxes are used in childcare centers, or if there are any collaboration opportunities. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can go to tonys.com, or you can email us at hello@tonys.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I hope that you have an amazing spring and summer with your beautiful family and all the good things that life has to offer. And I hope that Tony's continues to be a success. Hope that folks listening to this podcast, go check it out. Don't forget to leave a review, everybody. And we will announce in a future episode who our winner was. And thank you, Drew Vernon, for being with us today.
Thank you, Kris. It's been my pleasure.
Same. Take care, everybody. God bless. And we'll see you next time on Childcare Rockstar Radio. Bye-bye.